Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel. Let's get into what's going on here on the day with AMC stock. AMC stock is up about 1% at the time of recording this video. So definitely encouraging, and some pretty big things happened today, including CPI and more fears of a Chinese real estate crash China. So let's get into it. Hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and source your comments, questions, or concerns down below in the comments section. Thank you for doing that. Let's get into it. So China's real estate market roiled by default fears again as Country Garden spooks investors. Now, Country Garden, one of the largest non-state-owned developers by sales, has reportedly missed 2 coupon payments on dollar bonds that were due Sunday. I wonder, I believe they are part builders of like the ghost cities that are just buildings everywhere that don't have anyone in them. But that's neither here or there. Reuters said the bonds in question are notes due in February 2026 and August 2030. So they missed 2 coupon payments. They obviously have a grace period, kind of like what we've seen with Evergrande. And we'll see if they ultimately get paid. If they don't, you're going to have more fears of potentially a bankruptcy in the Chinese real estate market. And that's not exactly what the markets want to hear, considering we have our own problems with commercial real estate as well. It could turn into a real shit show very quickly. So do keep that in mind. That is part of the story today, but not the biggest story. The biggest story is inflation. The consumer price index rose 3.2% in July from 12 months earlier, the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics reported. While the annual rate for headline inflation was below expectations, it marked an increase from 3% in June. So this was better than expectations. You were expecting 3.3%, and this was the only number that was expected to actually move. The month-over-month readings, as well as the core headline year-over-year, was not expected to move. So this was, as expected, better than expectations a little bit. Now, nearly all of the monthly inflation increase came from shelter cost, which increased by 0.4% and were up 7.7% compared with 1 year ago. And experts say jumping oil prices are a threat to reaching the Federal Reserve's 2% inflation target. But what's actually interesting from all of this is what happened to your other numbers. The numbers that were not expected to move, well, they moved a little bit. So let's talk about it. Your month-over-month core as well as headline came in at 0.2%. These did not move, but your core year-over-year was expected to come in at 4.8%, and it actually came in at 4.7%. That's very good and very encouraging. Okay, this could have been much worse, and some people were forecasting it was going to be much worse. So this is positive for the markets here on the day today, but I think you're just overall in this kind of correction period. So the markets have kind of just sold off ever since you opened. It kind of ripped higher. It's been a sell-off basically ever since. You're still positive on the day, but not nearly to the same extent you were positive over 1% at one point in the day today on the NASDAQ. So the NASDAQ is currently up 0.35%. Pretty weak day considering inflation came in better than expectations. Now AMC stock doing exceptionally well today, up 0.82%. And we do have some data moving around on us. So if we take a look at Ortex, apparently some shorts covered on short positions. The legal short interest is 26.69%. Last month's reading, or 2 weeks ago, the reading was 29.05%. I don't think there's any less short exposure today than there was 2 weeks ago, right? Maybe some did cover, but it looks like still your options are going to hold a lot of those synthetic shorts. Keep that in mind. Options are synthetic shorts, as well as even some of your naked shorts, right? This is a topic that a lot of people don't like to talk about in financial media, but look at the FTDs with AMC. They're still absolutely insane. If we take a look at the number today, the running total, it's 12.5 million. Tomorrow is going to be 12.7 million, right? And then next week you start off at 14.2 million, you drop to 13 million, then you drop to 12.7 million, then you drop to 11 million. But you're still record high FTDs. Anything over 10 million has been a record high recently compared to what we have seen in the last 2 years. So this is still a major problem, right? This is still highlighting the degree of naked shorting that is taking place. It's excessive, okay? As well as the option activity. That is purely excessive as well at this point. 15 orders totaling $3.88 million with a positive order value of 19%. The positive order value yesterday was 18%. So you are getting some improvements from what we have seen a week ago when the positive order value was 6% on 204 orders totaling 78.37 million. So things are looking a little better than maybe they did before. So we'll see. We're ultimately waiting for the courts to make their decision. That's going to give you the big move in AMC. We're just waiting for that at this point. And depending on how that comes out, that is going to give you that huge move, right? And it should be any time, honestly. Like it should have already happened by now, but any time now we're expecting to get that news. Now the short score is at 93. You got short scores at 93. You got 697.17 million shares that are currently sold short. Estimated short interest of free float at 27.56%. Free float out on loan at 38.61%. Shares out on loan 200 million. Days to cover at 8.42. That is still very, very bullish. The higher the days to cover, the better. Cost to borrow 253.22%. Trailing 3-month average, and utilization at 82.29%. And I think that is just, again, picking up a lot of the ape that is out there on the markets today. So there is that positive order value actually increased to about 19% today. It's a little bit even more positive. Now, we are going to have a couple earnings today in after hours. IONQ, that is one that could move big. You do have Indie, Semiconductor, Gevo, Rigetti, Centra, Amyris, Wheaton, Evolve, Onto. Some of these stocks could actually move on earnings, but they're not going to move the broader markets. And then tomorrow, pre-market, you're going to have Air Canada, Air Sculpture, Soho House, Silver Spike, New York City REIT, and Rewalk. So basically your earnings season is done for your important companies. You're still going to have Nvidia. I believe they report earnings not next week, but the week after that. So you're still going to have some companies from now until then. But by and large, earnings season is done. And the biggest thing that you can point out in earnings season is there has been a lot of beats. Most companies have beat analyst expectations. But a beat is not good enough. The markets have factored in huge beats for a lot of stocks. And that's why a lot of stocks are falling so much even when they beat on all metrics. So I think you're just very vulnerable in that market to continue to see a sell down. And that's kind of what we're seeing, today. After this better than expected CPI report, markets are still selling down. We'll see if we ultimately close in the red or how bad things could get by the end of the day today. But if this inflation report did not cause the markets to have a good day, I don't know what else is. So initially, I was like, okay, stocks are probably going to do well today. This probably delays this correction based off this CPI report. I'm not so convinced of that now. If the markets rebound towards the end of the day, maybe, but this still shows you there's a lot of weakness out there and people still want to take a lot of profits and sell stock. So I think that is a little bit of a problem that the markets do have right now. Now let's go ahead and pull up the Stocko tracker data, take a quick little gander at that, look at some of the charts, and then wrap up this video. So for this Friday, you don't have a lot of calls in the money. Your in the money calls have fallen quite a bit. Your in the money calls sits at 12,121. Out the money calls at 241,503. In the money puts at 122,000. Out the money puts at 294,000. So you've definitely seen these numbers flip. At one point, you had more calls in the money than you had puts in the money expiring this week. Next week's gonna be a major option expiration as well. You got about 48,000 calls currently in the money, 484,000 calls out the money, 318,000 puts in the money, and 760,000 puts that are out of the money. So next week's going to be a very important option expiration. And really tomorrow, the way it looks like, could be kind of painful for the markets. Can we call it that? Especially if PPI month over month comes in hotter than expectations. That comes out at 8:30 in the morning tomorrow. You're expecting 0.2%. Last month's rating was 0.1%, as well as your Michigan Consumer Sentiment Survey, preliminary survey for August. You're expecting this at 71. The main thing is going to be 1 year and 5 year inflation expectations. 5 year inflation expectations expected at 3%. 1 year inflation expectations expected at 3.3%. If those numbers do go higher, you could be in for a little bit of a problem. Now, AMC stock is now up 1.3%. Again, you gapped up, came down, filled the gap, and now you're on this trend upwards, a very healthy trend. Let's just call it that. And again, you're just waiting for the court. So that's ultimately going to decide what happens with AMC. But the fact that AMC is going up now, as we're waiting for a ruling from the courts, I would say is a pretty positive sign. So that's going to do it for this video. And if you guys were curious, the RSI is at 54, as well as the MACD is still in positive territory, but starting to curl down a little bit. So nothing has really changed on a day-by-day basis. I will also pull up the moving averages as well, because I do think that is important with AMC. And you're basically finding support at the 100-day moving average and bobbing in between that and the 200-day moving average. So until you break under the 100-day moving average or 200, or break above the 200-day moving average, none of this really matters all too much. And ultimately, it's probably the courts that are going to do that anyway. So that is it for this video. Hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and source your comments, questions, or concerns down below in the comment section. You guys have a great rest of your day, and I will see you in the next one.